This is the Shift Conversations with Creative. We're here today with Sommelier Derrick Westbrook.
What up?
At what point or what drove you to get into the world of grapes?
Well, it's kind of funny how it happened. It was totally by accident. So back when we were in college, it's probably my first time being exposed to wine. So I worked at a little Italian restaurant named Lavoie's. Used to be a spot, family-owned place. And before that, I never served, never been around wine. Like I knew, like what was that? Something mist. What was the Moscato? There was like this sparkling wine that was sweet, and that was the only like understanding of wine I had back then, right? And so I started working at this Italian restaurant. They were rebuilding the wine list, and I got the taste of really fantastic things that I would otherwise never be able to experience. And I fell in love, and I thought it was just gonna be a side hustle, but fast 4 years later, it turned out to be my own thing.
Right. All right. The process of becoming sommelier. How intense was that process?
So it was probably one of my level 2. So there's like 4 levels. So there's intro, certified, advanced, and masters. And so I have my certified, and that was probably one of the hardest single exams I've ever had to take in my life, because it wasn't just about with most exams in other fields and traditional exams, like you're sitting down, you're either writing a lot or you're doing equations or what have you. But this exam, you had to use 3 parts of your brain. So blind tasting, they give you 4 wines, you have to blind taste those and pick out the region, vintage, and things of that nature. And then you have the kind of classic written exam where there's more questions than there is time to answer them. So you have to be able to go with your first mind and really know a lot of, have to go deep and broad with your answers and your understanding of wine. And so that was probably the portion of the exam that was most difficult, because there was so much information condensed into a short period of time. And then last but not least, all in the same day, you have to do a service portion where you're active on the floor, making wine suggestions, opening bottles, and still engaging with the guests. So I think that process was very arduous. I remember many nights of flashcards, staying up late, getting up early, and it was funny because the closer and closer I got, like the less and less I would sleep. Like the only thing that would occupy my mind was like studying and reading and taking in information. So much so that I would look at this wine wall back here and think about, where's this wine from? What is this varietal? What is this style? And if I blinded, could I reverse engineer that and pick out all those things? So that was it was easily one of the most difficult things that I had to do, and one of the most rewarding.
Okay. I watched your podcast. There been some pretty interesting pairings. Chicago famous hero chicken, now sauce, and wine. How important is that to make wine relatable to people?
Yeah, so, the thing that reminds me to keep wine relatable is I look at the people around me, right? So, as far as like friends I grew up with, I have the most wine knowledge of anyone. Okay? So when talking to them, I'm not in the restaurant, so there's this automatic, mental switch that, how do I make this easy and accessible? And then how would I want somebody to explain a difficult topic to me, right? And because, coming from my background and growing up the way I did, I had the ability to communicate with people on multiple levels, just because, looking like us, you got to be able to code switch.
Right.
And so that code switching became something easy. It's like, okay, how do I take this concept, this broad concept? In addition to that, when you think about winemaking, you think about wine in general, like the foundation is farming. And, my father grew up on a farm, my mother grew up on a farm, my grandparents farmed. And so it was always, there was always this thing in the back of my head that was like, this is farming, this is gardening at its core.
Right.
And so that always took me out of the clouds when you talk about wine. It's like, we're going grapes, you know what I mean? So, and if it's not yummy, and if we can't share the experience, then what good is it for me to know it? Like, if I can't talk about wine with my friends and not have to feel like it, I'm teaching, or I have to feel like, it's like having to force this information on you. If it's not fun, then it's not worth it to me. So it happened very quickly and very organically that I learned how to just talk about wine.
Right. So asking for a friend what is that wine that you pair with Harold's chicken?
So there was a couple. One of the things so there was an OPP Pinot Noir that I really liked with Harold's chicken. It was nice. I like rosés, and so when we talk about rosé can be sweet or dry, but I like fruity, dry. You want something that makes your mouth water to go with, especially if you're doing mild sauce, right? And then, you can get into is it Uncle Remus mild sauce or Harold's mild sauce. But like mild sauce has these kind of basic components of like that brown sugar, a little bit of ketchup, you know what I'm saying, a little secret sauce in there too as well. And so when you think about those components, the funny thing is, right, is people always ask me like, how do you pair with soul food? Like, isn't that hard? How do you pair these things? Like, no, because there's a science to it, right? And when you look at the science, it makes sense because the technique of cooking, all those things are the same. It's just that soul food gets this knock that it's not as like that is in the culinary world. There's not about this. There's not the precision, or there's not there's much value on it. But we know, what I'm saying? Like, you can teach somebody to go, cook French bistro food, right? Like, you can teach somebody to cook French food. But, man, sometimes you can't teach everybody to cook soul food, right?
Not exactly.
No, Like, you gotta have a little, you gotta feel it. And I think that's what helped me with my pairings. Is, like, as much as it is a science, it has to be something that just feels right for you. So I like bright rosés, bright fruity rosés, white wines that are kind of like have maybe just a little bit of RS. So RS cheat code is residual sugar, so just a little bit of sweetness or off dry, because it goes really well. And if you get something like bright minerally white wine, it cuts through the fat of the chicken, and so that's what you want it to do. So So I know you asked for one, but there's three. So you can go like, medium to light reds. Rosés that are super fruit forward, not necessarily sweet, and then white wines that are super bright, minerally, like high acid, right? So kind of make it mouth water type, like citrus things. Because like you put lemon, right? They put lemon pepper on Harold's. Think about the wine as that lemon pepper. And so those are the pairings I would suggest.
For someone walks in your door the first time, wine can be intimidating to some people. What is that? I know you have a little catchphrase. Elaborate on that for me.
So my thing I always say is like, is it yummy? You know what I mean? Like, and that's always where we start at. Is if it ain't yummy, what are we talking about, right? And when somebody walks in, I like to start with the lowest common denominator. Like, let's make these things. Like, let's do these either ors that are really simple, and then I'll do the work in my head about how to like navigate through that. So like for instance, first thing I ask like, I want a wine. Okay, you're looking for a red, white, rosé, and they'll say, well, I want a red wine. I say, okay, do you want sweet or dry? And they'll say, oh, I want sweet. And then they'll say, and I say, okay, well, tell me about do you want it fruity and sweet or earthy and sweet? And they'll say, oh, kind of want it fruity and sweet like Pinot Noir. And then that'll trigger me to say, oh, so when you say sweet, you want more juice and fruit notes to it. So when somebody walks in, the thing I like to do is say, like, look, it's a big wall, right? It can be intimidating. And my job is to find out what you do and don't like, and then take that and shrink it just a little bit, so then you have a better understanding of what you're asking for. But we gotta start with, is it yummy? If it ain't yummy,
you like it.
yeah, you like it or you don't. And it's cool not to like everything. Like, there's wines that I don't particularly love. There's food I don't particularly love, and there's nothing wrong with that. So,
Let's talk about samples and samples. Your event that pairs hip hop and wine. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so samples and samples is super exciting. Been doing it for a little bit over a year now, and the idea is like, I have this love for like, we grew up on hip hop, grew up on soul and blues and music. Like, one of my fondest memories is, every Saturday morning my parents would clean the house, and I remember them playing like juke joint blues music. Like, my dad loves playing it. Like, we had a couple records, like some Diana Ross records, but it was mostly just like radio stuff. And I remember that feeling, right? And then when I think about like barbecues and going out and hanging out, as a kid, I remember like good music and everybody had a little something to drink, right? And so it's like these things always seem to go together, right? Like there's a song for an emotion, there's a drink for an emotion. So these things, I've always had them kind of together. They always collaborated in my head, and it felt no different with wine. So we started doing samples and samples. And the cool thing about it is, what we started to figure out when we started doing like just strictly hip hop is that like it started to expand. So we started doing like we'll do like a little bit of soul, we'll do a little bit of top 40s pop, and the idea is that like wine is communal, right? Like it doesn't matter like your socioeconomic status. It doesn't like you can always communicate and hang out around wine, right? And music is the same thing. It draws in so many different crowds and so many different people. So why not take those two communal things? And I'm really excited. So like we're doing work with City Winery to do samples there, and I'm really excited because I get to reach more people, and I'm really excited about the feedback that we're gonna get because then that will inform how we do samples in the future. So yeah, it's crazy though, man. It was something I just stumbled into.
Okay. All right. So what is it that what really drives you and gets you going and makes you smile about being a sommelier?
The wine doesn't hurt. like it's fun finding new stuff. Like finding out about new grapes, new regions, or tasting new producers that I never had or experienced before. I think that's really dope. Addition to that, I like when the light bulb goes off. Telling somebody about a complex concept, or what can seem like a complex concept, making it simple, and then they go, oh. Or when I'll do a tasting, and somebody will come back and they'll repeat something to me that I said at the tasting. They're like, yeah, just like this, just like that. So when you see those dots connect for them, that's like, I'm lit. Like I love it. Like it is the one thing. It is the thing that like it lights the fire for me. It's like, oh, I'm giving you this thing that you can use and you can share. And so then the wine tasting experience is not just in this moment. It lasts forever because that's a piece of me that I've given you to last you forever. And so that's super rewarding. And it's fun to like you pull out a dope bottle and some people drinking and you see that experience and then they love the wine and then they love the way they feel after it. So you can't get mad at that.
Okay.